Simon Sinek says that if you're working hard for something you don't believe in, it's called stress. If you're working hard for something that you believe in, that you align with daily, it's called passion. What should I start a business in is a question a lot of entrepreneurs ask themselves at some point in time, if not constantly. But especially, what should you start a business in that you're passionate and that is sustainable? Well, that's the question that I'm going to answer today. If you have no idea what you want to do, but you know you want to be an entrepreneur, you felt it internally for a long time, here's a few step process to figure out how to align with what you believe in to the business that you should start. Anxiety, fear, and self-doubt is something that naturally occurs within an entrepreneur. If you haven't started a business but you want to, that's something that we struggle with all the time. That's something that I was trying to face in myself. I began to kind of figure out a little bit more and answer the question, okay, what should I start a business in? I have all these ideas, but I don't know how to start taking those first steps. And especially, how do I align them with the things that I believe? If you're not a fan of Simon Sinek and you haven't read or watched anything on starting with why, how to essentially align with what you do in the businesses you start with what you believe in, then I definitely suggest on either buying the book or start watching his stuff. Simon Sinek is ridiculously good. But essentially his idea is that you're only going to start a business that is going to do well if you're passionate and you align with it. So if you're just looking for a market opportunity and you see something in a newspaper or something locally, then it's not going to be sustainable. The business isn't going to be well because you truly don't align with it. You're just taking hold of a market opportunity. However, if you've experienced something, if you felt something that you want to provide or alleviate a feeling for others, then that business is going to do really well. So first off, the first thing I would say is start with why. Begin to evaluate what gets you up in the morning, what gets you started, what gets you passionate. What do you love? Is it helping people? Is it helping people in education? Do you want to provide a product or service to help alleviate something that happened to you in your life? Did you grow up working on cars with your father and that was a passion that's been ingrained with you ever since? If we begin to think about and look at what we do on a day in and day out basis, we can kind of understand a little bit more on what would be sustainable for us as a business owner to start. Another favorite author of mine, Ferris, he suggests also looking at your bank or credit card transactions. If you look through there, you'll begin to see consistent trends, whether it be food, clothes. For me, I began to see a little bit more of a trend towards coffee and working out and supplements. So that would be a really good thing for me to consider. In fact, at all my jobs I've been to, I've been known as the coffee snob. I love coffee, I love different kinds of coffee and different brew methods. So that's something to consider and something I would love to do. So first off, start with why. Second off, examine your credit card and bank purchases to figure out what do you lean towards, what products or services do you personally enjoy and you align with daily. The next step I would suggest that as you figured out your why you wake up every day, and you've examined your purchases and figured out consistent trends, then list the businesses you would like to start, the things you would like to do. And what you want to do is you want to create two separate lists. The first list is going to be based off of revenue. What has either the most market potential, that you know that there's the most need there, and what's going to provide the most income, like the highest cost per unit, essentially. Then you're going to create a second list with all those things that you listed previously. And what that list is going to include is actually the barrier to entry, primarily on cost for you. And once you've examined both lists, again, these are the same items, just listed in separate formats and separate examples. Once you have both those lists, you want to see between the two lists what ranks the highest on both. So essentially you're trying to examine what is the easiest barrier to entry and what is going to provide me the most sustainable income. So you can find one or two that align with both of those the most, then you kind of have a better idea on what's the best first step, the first business to start. So how does it look for a college student, for example? So let's say you're a college student or you just graduated, you don't have much income. You want to look for something that is a low cost of entry and a higher cost of revenue. So what that allows you to do is you're allowed to enter the market and then try to create a sustainable business. And let's say you still want to do this particular kind of thing beyond that, you can allow this business, if you create it sustainable, to work and function on its own within the employees that you grow and manifest and scale with it. Then that will allow you to have an income to be able to move on to your next venture that might be more expensive. For example, like opening up a gym. If you wanted to open up a gym, it might be hard to go from college student to gym opener because it is so expensive to buy all the equipment, get the insurance, get the building, and all of that. But if you start a business that is a low barrier to entry, and you create a sustainable income off of that, you scale it, make it self-sustainable, then you move on to your next venture of what you more want to do, then that will allow you to really take things more conservative, but also have multiple streams of income and business. So I'll give you my real life example now. So first off, like I said, let's start with my why. I began to examine the jobs that I took and what I loved about each one of them, what I hated. And what I began to realize and why I want to be an entrepreneur is because I had at one point in my life a really toxic work environment where I felt unappreciated even though I was one of the top performers. And I know that I don't want anyone else to feel that way. I don't want an employee of mine to feel unappreciated, unloved, unwelcomed, and like they are replaceable. Not only do I want to be a good boss, but I also want to help people in their careers, and I want to help people in their lives in general, create the most good possible. And that's why I'm doing YouTube. Now that I've defined my why, and I know in essence I want to help others and be a good boss, then I can begin to break down those lists that we talked about. So first off, here's a few businesses that I wanted to start. I wanted to be a gym owner, so I wanted to start my own gym within the area that I live now. I love coffee, so I want to be a coffee shop owner. I'm currently writing a book as well. I've been wanting to do YouTube continuously for a while, and I also have wanted to do education consulting. So on screen now, I'll have that listed from expected revenue and essentially the market that is available and needing this service or product now. And then again, the second list I'm going to create is based off of the barrier to entry, based off of cost. So for me to go ahead and start that business now, what would it take? Now, as you can see, opening up a gym, for example, would be pretty hard and wouldn't really make sense for me as I'm working 9 to 5. I want to be able to start something on my own and then break away from my 9 to 5. So starting a gym would be kind of against that because I would have to put so much effort and time into it, as well as a ton of capital up front to buy all the equipment. So that's not a good thing to do. That's one reason why I'm doing YouTube. Yes, it is a lower ability to make money at first, but it allows me to most align with my why and create and scale something now that can lead to these other ventures. But again, my why is to help others progress in their life and career, ultimately. So I know that these things can come later if I do this really well. So now what I'm focusing on is doing YouTube. And then my next thing would be education consulting. I can start that business now and essentially only pay like $300 for the web hosting and for the business license itself. And I can do education consulting and start that business and scale it, then move on to the next thing of like a coffee shop and book. And then I can move on to the next thing of eventually owning my own gym. So you see how it progresses from one thing to the next while creating sustainable incomes if you scale it correctly and create it as a sustainable income on its own. That means trusting your employees and creating a hierarchy of employees that can take care of your business for you. So start making these lists now and begin realizing, for one, what are the purchases you make often, and start beginning to realize why you wake up in the morning every day, what makes you passionate. Then begin making those lists that I talked about, really examining what could you start now and what could you scale to eventually. This will allow you again to alleviate that anxiety that we've talked about in the past, being able to have the freedom, not only with the Millionaire Foundation that we kind of talked about previously, of having that taken care of, that $1 million status being the safety net for you in the future, but also you're then being proactive against that anxiety of starting something because you know what is my lower barrier to entry and what can I work towards in my ultimate dream, while also aligning with my why and what is my purpose in every step. So start doing that now. Start making those lists and letting me know kind of how that's working out for you. Again, you're welcome to disagree with me. Let me know what you know in the comment section below or what businesses you want to start. And let me know how your list worked out, on what business you would start first and what would you scale to eventually. But again, my name is Jacob Haynes. I want to hear your thoughts more importantly, and let me know if there's anything else that you want me to cover in the comment section below.